This past week, my boyfriend asked me if I wanted to go bass fishing with him. I said yes, mostly because I thought it would be relaxing and I just like being outside. But once we got there, I realized something very quickly. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I just was kind of standing there holding the fishing rod while he talked about things like lures, beds, and spawning season. Like I was supposed to understand what any of that meant. Meanwhile, I was just hoping the fish would just magically jump onto my hook. After that trip, I decided that before we went fishing again, I was going to do some research so I wouldn't be completely clueless. What I learned is that bass fishing is actually way more strategic than it looks. Some of the most important things that fishermen need to understand are the fishing techniques, spawning season, and where the fish are going to be. First, let's talk about fishing techniques. Bass are what's called ambush predators. That means that they don't usually swim around and chasing food all the time. So instead, they hide near water objects underwater like weeds, rocks, fallen trees, or docks and wait for the prey to swim by. Because of this, fishermen usually try to cast their lure near these types of structures instead of just throwing it out into the middle of the lake. Another big part of bass fishing is using artificial lures. These are designed to look and move like things that bass would normally eat, like small fish or insects. Some of the most common lures are plastic worms, crankbaits, and spinnerbaits. They have very weird names. Plastic worms are especially popular because they move slowly through the water and look very real and natural to bass. Crankbaits are shaped like small fish and are retrieved quickly so that it looks like they're prey trying to escape. There are also techniques called flipping and pitching, which are basically ways of casting your reel precisely into tight spaces where bass are hiding. When I first heard my boyfriend talking about that, I thought he meant flipping the fishing rod that was just in a dramatic way, but it actually just means carefully placing your lure near cover where bass would actually be. One of the most exciting techniques is called topwater fishing. This is when the lure stays on the surface of the water, making splashing or popping sounds, and sometimes bass will explode out of the water to attack these lures, which is apparently the most exciting part for the fishermen. I haven't experienced this yet, but hoping that the next time I go, I will. The other thing that I learned about bass is their spawning season. This usually happens in the spring when the water temperatures are warm, around like 60 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. During this time, the bass move from deeper water into shallow areas to reproduce. The male bass will actually build their nests at the bottom of the lake using their tails to clear any debris away and create small circular areas in sand or gravel. When a female comes by, she will lay her eggs in the nest and the male will then fertilize them. After that, the female usually will leave and the male stays behind so that it can protect and guard the eggs. This is important for fishing because the bass actually behave differently during the spawning season. Since they move into shallow waters, they're easier to find. However, male bass guarding nests might attack a lure, not because they're hungry, but because they think it's a threat to the eggs. Because of this, many fishermen practice the catch and release during spawning season to protect fish populations. Another thing I learned while researching bass fishing is that where they actually live matters for catching them. Bass usually prefer warm waters, lakes, ponds, and slow-moving rivers. They especially like areas with lots of cover, like weeds, fallen trees, rocks, or docks, and these areas give them places to hide and ambush their prey. This is important for fishermen because if you're casting your line in the middle of the open water, you're probably not going to have any luck. Bass like to stay close to the structure where they feel protected and where smaller fish tend to swim. Once I understood that, it suddenly made a lot more sense why my boyfriend was telling me to cast near the bay instead of just throwing my line anywhere. I wasn't having any sort of luck. So learning about bass habitat can make a huge difference because knowing where they actually live helps fishermen know exactly where they should be fishing. So the next time my boyfriend asks me to go bass fishing, I won't just be standing there hoping for the best. I'll know to cast near structures, use the right lures, and pay attention to whether it's spawning season. Hopefully that means I'll catch a bass and maybe even outfish him.